Good evening, it's Brian of Brian's Budget Bonsai again, and this evening we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We are going to be taking this houseplant and trying to turn it into something bonsai-ish. This is a houseplant that my wife has said she no longer wants, and I believe it's probably some type of shleffera, or umbrella tree or something like that. It was just generic tropical foliage that you buy at a big shop store. We've had it for a while and it has grown long and leggy, and she said, I don't want it in my house anymore. And it drops its leaves and makes a mess, she said. But when I took it outside, it started growing some aerial roots and some sprouts down here. So I was thinking that this might be a good time to maybe see if I can do like trunk chops on this, all four of these, and then see if I can just root these all, whatever I cut off of there, see if I can get a couple cuttings off of each one of these to then put in another pot. I'm hoping to actually use this one here. It's a terracotta, glazed terracotta, so it's not going to handle frost real well, but neither will this. So this will be a plant that will come in to the garage during the winter, so that this won't get frost cracks and this won't die from freezing to death. So let's give this a try. The pot that it's in, absolutely zero drainage, no holes on the bottom whatsoever. And when this, I have dumped this out when it rains because literally it'll fill with water. We just had some big rains the last couple of days, finally. Yeah, that's what kind of inspired me to do this now, is because this is just filling with water all the time. It doesn't seem to mind. So I have no idea what kind of mess I'm going to get into when I open this, get this out. And this may take a while. Some of this may be sped up in editing. Some of this may be just cut out for repetition. And I might even switch to time lapse if it gets too boring. But I promise not to waste too much of your precious viewing time. All right. So first we get the rocks out of here. A lot of the rocks fell out of here when I just would tip the pot on its side to let the water drain out of it. Okay, I'm going to put this out of the way, so I'm going to reuse it, but I don't want it to be potentially broken. All right. What are we going to do with you? Let's see. Let's give it a little pull and see if anything, if it comes out willingly. There we go. Okay. So it really only had roots down maybe 5-6 inches. The rest, just a pot of just regular old potting soil. It hasn't been any bonsai soil. This is just out of the bag, probably Miracle Grow or Stay Green or something like that. So we're going to work out some of the soil and see what we can do. I'm going to, though, right now, I'm going to do the chop right now, just so I don't have all of this to deal with while I'm trying to work the soil. All right, so there's actually, looks like there are little leaf buds that are trying to come out on these trunks anyway. So I'm going to prune just a few inches above where I saw some of these leaves. And you can see it started to prune up here, but of course, what did it do? It grew towards the center. The one place we don't want them to grow is towards the center. We want them to grow out. So we might be able to fix that. Let me put this over here for now. We'll use these later. But let's, first of all, let's just knock some of this stuff away. If these things come out as individual little trees, I can arrange them so that this new growth is not facing inward. But we'll have to kind of see how much these roots are all kind of fused together. After I've been in this pot for years. Again, just minimal amount of attention. Kept in the sunny window. Watered whenever we remembered. No drainage. And it just kept on growing, but it would always drop its lower leaves. Oh, look at here. This is a remnant of its days as a little potted plant. This is a little wicking system that they had to try to keep the soil moist, and apparently it got planted there. It's basically just a string that probably held it to a pot where it had water in the bottom and just wicked the moisture up into the roots. That, not a solution for bonsai, but it's a solution for a lot of plants that are kept on shelves for months and months. Especially with stores while they're waiting for it to sell. I think that this little rubbery thing here, this is not a root. I think this is the remnant of some of those like fertilizer spike things. I think these may have been used at one point. And again, they just turn into this spongy goo. Again, whether or not those things are actually any good, or again, is it just something that the only purpose they serve is to separate us from a few bucks. Okay, I'm going to go wash these roots off, clean up this here a little bit so we can see what we're doing a little bit, and then take it from there. Okay, so here's the first one. And I'm just going to see if I can just spread the roots out a little bit, see if I can find a root plane. Maybe, yeah, see, like some of these roots, this might be the root plane down here, but that means that these roots are a little higher. This is where the soil was originally. You can tell because that's still wet. But yeah, if we go back and we just give this a little prune, cut off those, cut off those. I'm going to get a little closer in with some of these pruners. See, get some of that out of the bottom there. Kind of a thick root there. We're going to cut that off right there. See if we can redirect that. I am not necessarily familiar with how this is going to respond to being repotted in the middle of summer. I believe it's a tropical, so chances are it'll be fine. But I don't know. It is, however, again, a plant that my wife wanted me to throw in the garbage. So if it survives, it survives. If it doesn't, oh well. It's the Ivan Drago approach to to making bonsais. If it dies, it dies. Now, this one, kind of funky. See, we got a little new bud growing there. Long, I don't know if that's a taproot or if this was originally a cutting and it just grew roots in weird places. If these are all cuttings, then it bodes well for me being able to reuse those other things as cuttings. What I think I'm going to do then, and again, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You can see that you've got some roots coming out over here, and then things turn a little bit, and then you've got a whole bunch of roots coming out here at the bottom. If I make that the trunk base, then this curved part becomes part of the trunk where it was actually part of the root structure before. So that is a way to get a little more trunk, a little more curvature, and an otherwise straight stick of a plant. All right, I'm gonna give this a little more wash. Okay. That root's kind of dead. We're taking that off. And again, you see that it doesn't have a very extensive root system. So even though it was surviving in that pot of mush, I don't think it was thriving. And I'll be very interested to see what happens when this gets in well-draining bonsai soil. Again, this is those goofy little fertilizer sticks. Same situation, we have roots further up, but our root base is down here. This is the level of the root plane really here. Let's see if it's a little bit better from there. But so that means these ones up here have got to go. And yeah, I know I'm using my good pruners to cut at roots through dirt, but this is not, I don't think there's any grit in this dirt at all. So I'm not too worried. And this root just kind of goes way off wonky here, so we're going to see if we can get that one off. Hopefully that'll be sufficient. Again, there's very little leaves on there. And again, because I was able to get this separated, I'm going to try to see if I can make sure when I do the planting that this is pointing outward, not inward. All right, got one more with the roots. Kind of the same thing. We got multiple root levels. Probably was a cutting that was just put in the ground very deep. Gives us hope for those tops I cut off. Turn them into additional trunks if we're going to make, say, this a clump style. Cut all those things off there. There we go. Leaves us, again, fairly straight stick. Not much to look at. And again, a few little meagly roots here. We're gonna, again, that's all we're gonna leave with that one. Again, might survive, might not. I might be getting braver as I'm going along here, getting a little more like, hey, you know what? Gotta correct those roots while you can, right? Otherwise, you just get a bigger problem later on. All right, okay, now we've got the cutoffs, and we're gonna try to see if we can make some cuttings out of these, but I have no need for, what I might do is cut that there, and then maybe cut that there, try to make them about the same length. I don't even know if that's gonna, I mean, sometimes you, with some of these tropicals, you can literally just put a stick like this in the dirt and it'll grow. And you know, it does have little buds of roots on there. And you could say, you know, it costs nothing, stick that in some dirt. I'm gonna remove a lot of the foliage from this upper one so that we just have a little spruik there at the bottom. And again, there. We're going to have three categories here. We're going to have old cuttings that have roots, new cuttings that have leaves but no roots, and sticks in the pots. And we'll find out what works and what does not.
And again, roughly around the same size. We may only get one cutting out of this one, I think. We're going to stick in a pot. And there's our stick in the pot. And I'll just cut these lower ones off so they don't put a big demand on the tree where they're cutting, as it's trying to reestablish roots.
This one's got a little curve at the top. We'll have to make sure that points outward.
So, there we go. This one's already the right size for cutting with just the leaves at the top, so I don't have to subdivide this one. It's a nice variegated variety of whatever this is. Again, this may be a shleffera, and I can announce that, please. Again, I've also, oops, too aggressive with that. Go up to about there, maybe. Leave that as is. Let me remove some of the color. This one had a few aerial roots on it already, so that one, again, might have a head start. I cut above the aerial roots on most of these cuttings, so the aerial roots should still be on, or at least the beginning of the aerial roots should still be on it, because first ones I took out.
Okay, so we got two sticks in a pot, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 potential cuttings and 4 transplants. So we're going to see if we can get this all in that red pot. Okay, I've got a little of the drainage screen, the needlepoint drainage screen on there. I'm not going to bother covering up the holes for the wire holes. We won't be using wire on these. And again, I don't think the grain that I'm going to be using is going to fall through the holes there. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of a base layer here. Just where I'm going to plant the trees that have roots. Let's see. Start off with this one. This is the biggest one, so we're going to kind of put the biggest one in the center. Might trim off some of these roots. Again, I was a little bit more aggressive with the other roots. I need to be a little more aggressive with these. I was just noticing that I've got roots there sticking up straight in the air. And Nigel taught us better than that. And again, I got to take the attitude that this is going to be, again, headed for the garbage if I hadn't decided to do something about it. Let's see. We're going to make sure this one faces away. This one's got some growth over there, but we also see that it's growing in this direction. So again, we want that to kind of face away here. Again, the same thing, kind of give it a face away position there. All right, now I'm going to try to get some soil on these to hold them in place. Especially this one that's got the minimal amount of roots on it. With just 4, it's hard not to get like some sort of fakey looking symmetry where you've got some of them that are in a line with each other. It might be why they say you gotta have odd numbers on these plantings of, if it was a forest planting or something like that, or a group planting. But odds make more for, can have that asymmetry that you look for. That even will sometimes pair up. And you go like, okay. So I try to put it in like a group of 3 and then a group of 1. So even though I have an even number here, it's kind of like broken up into 2 separate groups of odds. A 1 and a 3. And again, fill this up pretty full. And this is like a tropical. We probably don't need to put rooting hormone on there. And most of my stuff, the stuff I have here, it says for moderately difficult rooting woody plants, and this is difficult to root woody plants. Again, I don't know whether or not this would be overkill for these things. I'm thinking that I'm going to try this without any rooting hormone. I think that these will root just from being in contact with the soil. All right, so now we've got these all in the pot. We're going to see how they handle this. Maybe they all die. Maybe they all survive. Maybe we get 50-50. We're going to see. And now it's no longer a houseplant. It's a bonsai. So for now, you guys have a good night. Stay cool and have happy bonsaiing.